So, I played Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, and it was awesome! Like, how can a game be this cool, yet so memey at the same time? Let me calm down. But yeah, Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. It's an action-adventure game developed by Platinum Games and published by no other than Konami. It was released for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, and then it was released for Windows in January and September in 2014. And I also see here, it was released on the Video Shield TV, whatever that is. It is made by the man himself, Hideo Kojima. Originally announced at E3 2009, under the title Metal Gear Solid Rising. The game went through a long development process who struggled to actually develop the game at the beginning of 2011. They decided to hand the development over to Platinum Games, who revamped the entire thing, and this switch developer was formally announced on December 10th, 2011. Kojima was still the supervising director, while Korigatu from Kojima Productions and Natasha Niba from Platinum Games were producers. So this was a game that I was always intrigued in, mostly due to all the memes, which I'm sure anyone watching this video is well aware of, especially with the Standing Here I Realized memes popping off not too long ago. Got me listening It Has to Be This Way on repeat for a long time. Like, I was obsessed with that song, and one day it was on sale on Steam and I knew I had to pick it up, so I did, and it was in my backlog for the longest time. Finally got myself to play it for my first video essay thingy. This is my first time making a video like this, and I wanted to start with this game since it's pretty short. On how to beat, it only says it's like, what, 7 hours long, which is really refreshing considering the open world bajillion hour games I usually play. I've been taking a liking to more linear focused games where there isn't a million side quests and content for me to explore, and this game definitely quenched that thirst. This isn't my first time playing a Metal Gear game, period. Go on. Go boom me and sigh. I thought this would be a cool point to jump in since it's a spin-off and, you know, all the memes. I'm definitely open to playing all the mainline games though someday. This game was a lot of fun to play. The combat was engaging and challenging, with me usually having to replay boss fights multiple times with the exception of Mistral and Wolf. With all that nitty-gritty stuff out the way though, it's time to get to the meat of it all, and the actual gameplay and my thoughts on the story and everything that in the game as a whole. Okay, so I first booted up the game to this edgy title screen. Look, I'm staring to your soul. I didn't start with the tutorial because, you know, I don't know how to play the game. The controls definitely took some getting used to. Even during this play session, I still wouldn't say I was fully accustomed. To run was control and shift was to enter the cool slow down chop mode, also known as blade mode. I thought it should have been the other way around at first, and even ended up switching the inputs at one point, only to then realize the former wasn't that bad and switch back. The shift button being the mode to slice was actually very helpful. Also, I could tell this game was released on consoles first because of how the PC controls were. You know it's a bad PC port when you can navigate or only navigate the UI with the arrow keys. Like, bro, why would I use the arrow keys when I have my mouse? And this is not me saying the game is a bad port, but it definitely has some of those elements with the arrow key navigation and camera controlling pretty weird at times. And it's fine. A lot of early 2000s, 2010s games that originated on consoles and ported to PC later have these issues. The PC version was released about a year later after the main game came out on January 9th, 2014. Anyway, back to me learning how to play the game. The game also showed me how to parry, which is very much an important part of combat, with it being your main source of defense really. No blocks, no dashes, you just need raw skill. Even though from a certain standpoint the game just looks like high rush combat, it very much rewards patience. Running in guns blazing, or in this case blades blazing, is not the way to go. You gotta stay alert to make sure you can parry your enemy attack and seize any window you get to slice them up. The game then starts with the Prime Minister of Africa being transported somewhere, I don't know. He never ends up there anyway. Him being transported by Raiden and his fellow squad members when they are attacked by a group of rogue cyborgs. This is where I'm introduced to the best character in the game. I legit gasped when I saw him. He lives up to his meme status. Sam then shows us his get from Ohio. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I hate saying stuff like that out loud. It's much easier to write that down in a script than it is to actually say stuff like that. But then proceeds to cut a guy in his machine gun in half with ease. Isn't he just so cool? Then, while the vehicle carrying the Prime Minister flees, we get that iconic smile. Look at him. Anyway, the vehicle is then cornered by a bunch of copy-paste cyborgs when we head into the first combat encounter. I'm just kind of doing whatever, as you can see. I wasn't the best, you know, considering I had just started with the game and all I did was a tutorial at that point, so I'm still getting my bearings. Something I noticed looking back to is Raiden's health UI, and just overall UI is different between His old version, should I say that since he's a cyborg, or is that racist? I don't know, but his new model has a different UI than the old version, showing the growth not only in the upgrades but also as himself as a character, which is pretty cool. Okay, maybe that one of him growing as a person was a stretch, but the upgrade part definitely makes sense. We are then very gruesomely introduced to Sundowner when he slices one of the bodyguards into pieces and then decapitates the other. He then grabs a hold of the Prime Minister, but before he can skedaddle, Raiden pops up due to a hero's confrontation. He then runs off with the Prime Minister, but before Raiden can chase him, he is stopped by a giant mech that showed up earlier, which leads into the first boss fight of the game. Kinda. It seems like the first boss fight, right? Would that be considered a wolf? Anyway, the first phase wasn't too difficult and did a good job of making me feel pretty cool with all the jumping and slicing. Especially when we caught the blade and freaking spun the thing around and threw it and then proceeded to run on it and cut it in half. Like, that was legit so epic. Rules of nature. But then it just comes back again for later for phase 2. But it's okay because we defeated it. We just got eaten. We then moved the fight to a tower section, which I just sucked at first, but then finally cut it in half and come out on top. We then catch up to the Prime Minister where he's held up on a train, and also where he faces demise to the enemy cyborgs, as Raiden isn't able to get him in time thanks to Jetstream Sam. Sundowner then escapes, leaving us to face Sam in a rigged boss fight where you have no chance of winning, you just gotta accept your fate. He doesn't even do any actions until you do. If you just stand there, he stands there. You can even walk up in his face and nothing, but as soon as you swing your blade, he's already 2 steps ahead of you. Raiden ends up losing his eye and arm and is about to lose his life before backup arrives and causes Sam to flee. It then cuts to 3 weeks later where Raiden got some smancy upgrades, including a level 3 yacht. He's on a mission to enter Abakasai. I should have practiced pronunciation. He's on his way to enter a place and get rid of terrorists that are overthrowing the government. This is also where the Kodak feature is introduced. You know, the best feature in all the Metal Gear games. And I'm honestly surprised by all the stuff characters have to say. I remember just constantly dialing up Courtney to see if there was ever an end and what else she had to say. It was really immersive and helped bond me with the characters because of those moments where them and Raiden were just talking about the recent events going on, which led me to calling everyone often throughout certain points in chapters to see what they had to say about the current situation. The Kodak is also where you can access the customization menu where you can upgrade Raiden and learn new skills, but most importantly, strip out Raiden's body. The only ones that really stand out to me are the OG body, Gray Fox, and of course the best one in the game, the Mariachi uniform. Anyway, we butcher a couple cyborgs and then we move on our merry way where the game puts us in the first stealth encounter, which I fumbled miraculously. If you can even call this game stealthy at all, which will lead me to a rant about the stealth in this game. Basically, there is none because it sucks. There isn't even a crouch feature. You just have to walk around awkwardly to avoid being seen. Now listen, yes, there is scanner mode where you can scout out the area and plan accordingly, and the boxes and barrels, but the latter is kind of forgettable, with me using it like 2 times the whole game. Doesn't help that they're pretty slow, and being spotted while in one still gets you caught. If you're in the box and somebody sees the box, you get caught. And the former is still kind of useless without a more fleshed out stealth system, because it really just boils down to walk behind or drop on top of an enemy and press F. And yes, I know, no Johns, but it's the reason I sucked so much at it, or just didn't bother and just went in guns blazing. I straight up hated the stealth, and don't get me wrong, I love stealth in video games just as much as I love straight up combat, but that's when the stealth system has more to it, you know? Classic crouch, using items to distract the enemy and the such, with different games having new and their own unique ways of approaching stealth. With that rant over, back to the rest of the game. After getting out the stealth area that took me way too long because of reasons I stated earlier, plus I was new, I sucked. We get into the second boss fight of the game, or first if you don't count the giant robot from earlier. Blade Wolf, or Wolfie, he's kind of a bad boy in the start, but we warm up to him and vice versa later. But right now, he's on that pit bull timing, and we play the role of the toddler. As you'd expect from an early game boss fight, he wasn't very difficult, but I would say he was very important, at least to me, in honing my skills and preparing me for future bosses. Wolfie's what really locked me into parrying, and how important it is in this game, especially when we get to Moonsun. Oh my god. But as you can see in the footage at the start, I kept getting hit, but quickly start using my brain and parrying, which led to the fight getting much more smoothly. He also spawns in minions, which is something I've always hated in video game bosses. The ones that spawn in more enemies to draw focus away from them. Now you gotta get rid of the other people before going back to them, and the cycle continues. It's just a Move. It's just a female dog move. I swear to God. Like, just fight me one-on-one, you coward. I much prefer when the boss battles just focus on one enemy. The boss. I'd much rather deal with more skilled and challenging single boss fight than one where they spawn a bunch of minions every 5 minutes, and it feels like a cheap way to add more difficulty to the boss fight, and it's just so annoying. But other than that, the fight was a breeze, no stress whatsoever. The same can't be said for future fights up and coming. But not too long after that, we get into this mini boss fight with some helicopters that result in a quick chase sequence, and then a fight at these pillars where you have to climb the pillars to get to the copter and slash them, then finally jumping on the goddamn missiles it shoots to get close and slash it into a million pieces. You then get past the Gist gate, which you're supposed to do by getting a key card from a cyborg's arm, but I kind of messed it up, so I just sliced it open. From there we make it to the top of the abandoned building and spy on a little Russian man and mysterious woman, who I'm sure is of no importance at all and certainly won't be a hassle later. The man leaves and the lady turns around to blow Raiden a kiss. A few combat encounters later and we make it up to the top of the power plant to confront the lady who introduces herself as Mistral. Anybody from a mile away can tell she's the second boss fight, or third if you count. Okay, let me stop. I'm just going to separate the giant mech from the rest of the bosses you encounter because they're more personal. As cool as I think she is, Mistral is kind of the girl of this game in the sense of, yeah, she does have a backstory in death, but also acts sexy and moans. Like, seriously. In the scene where she's equipping all the arms, I can't tell if she's in pain or pleasure. Mistral's fight is the most memorable for me, as even though Wolf was technically the first boss fight, Mistral really felt like the first, I guess, due to the spectacle and all. Not only did I like the location the fight took place in, but Mistral's boss theme, A Stranger I Remain, was one of my favorite songs in the game. When I first heard it during the fight, it really caught my attention, especially once the lyrics kick in at the end. But yeah, Mistral's fight is definitely one of my most favorites. Just like Wolf's, it once again really helped me get down with the power of parrying. Heck, I think this is what got me used to using it, thankfully, since Musin was next. We defeat her by having her slice open a container of, I don't even know, liquid nitrogen to freeze her body, which we then slice and shatter into a million pieces. One cool thing about this game is after you kill the bosses, there's a moment afterwards you can speak with them via comms. I guess cyborgs take time to shut down and have extra time to speak, even after they're quite literally decimated. But it's nice you get to hear what they have to say, and how they react to being defeated. After that though, the Russian man is angry he killed his escort and ends up blowing up the entire power plant. What a sit, am I right? Okay, that's not the entire reason he did it, of course, but yeah, the place blows and the chapter ends. Pretty cool chapter, I would say. It's a good intro to Raiden's new abilities and gives us 2 boss fights. Through it, we are gifted the pole arm unique weapon, which is the weapon I ended up using the entire rest of the game. I just love how it plays. It's just another reason why I love Mistral. I also upgraded Raiden's body a bit, and then on to the next chapter. Raiden, and now newfound companion Wolf, who has been modified to be quote-unquote good. I guess we're just on our side. They roll into Mexico to find a Desperado lab that has been dumping toxic waste into the sewer, and maybe a little human trafficking too, but whatever. Wolf finds that there is a boy in the sewer being attacked by those hand robots, this boy being a kid named George, the best character in the game. We jump in and save him, of course, and find out he's a runaway from a lab that was hoarding children, practically little boys, just little boys really, and was planning to cut out their organs to turn them into cyborg soldiers. Oh good heavens. So now we have to quickly get to that research facility to save all those boys. On the way, I find a box that I didn't know was used for stealth until like the end of the game. Speaking of which, another stealth mission. Okay, from now on, to save time, whenever sections like this do pop up, I'm just not going to talk about them unless some part of the gameplay is relevant. I need to say this at least one last time because this section took me so long. Listen, I know I'm bad at the game, okay? That's why it took so long. I was a noob. Afterward, we make our way to the UG maintenance facility where we need to take a dupe.
Wait, what?
Is dump a digital optical output mounted proxy?
Before that though, we explore more into the facility and end up finding a room where all the children are being kept, where their brains and eyes are being kept. Anyway, as the boys have already been harvested, it's not a pretty sight. On a good note though, kinda, these aren't the same boys from where George escaped from, as it's only been a few hours, and there's no way they were all harvested that fast, which means there's still hope to save them. It's just sadly too late for those boys in the other room. Finally, we take a dupe and sneak around this part of his facility, playing as the Tribot bot, which is actually really fun and cute. You can do little emotes with yourself or with a friend. That's so cute. I loved it. You can also kill your fellow tripods, so you don't have to worry about them later when you come back as Raiden. The stealth here is also really fun with the takedowns and all, since it's really simple. You can emote on your dead enemies like it's Fortnite. Definitely one of my favorite parts of the game, even if it's pretty small. We then, as a tripod, hack into facility servers via USB, and Doctor ends up having us eavesdrop on a conversation for a Sentry Cyborg. We see no other than Sundowner and some other characters probably not really important. We learned that there's already some kids who are undergoing the VR cyborg training, and Sundowner, along with this unimportant character, want the training done as fast as possible, you know, for their war stuff or whatever. We later find out that George has been missing. No! Anyway, we enter that area that brings us to a mini boss fight in the Grad, this little tank thingy that took more time than I like to admit. Like, I legit had to look up an IGN guide because I had no idea what I was supposed to do. Turns out you just gotta parry really whenever that orange glow pops up. The goal of the first half of the fight is to push it back, and when you do that by hitting it and parrying any attacks, which is fun fact. Early on, when I was still pretty fresh in the game, I thought orange glow attacks were non-parryable. Parryable? Is that a word? But yeah, I was wrong clearly. Same goes with the second half of the fight. You just gotta be good at parrying, which I still wasn't. It took me many tries until I was able to get used to attack patterns and properly parry the attacks from any side they were coming from. You're then gonna start breaking parts of his armor bit by bit until finally you shred this thing. Afterwards, we learned that unimportant character from earlier is actually Senator Armstrong, and he's in the works of Sundowner and his clan to, you know, do war stuff. But come on, the Senator, he's nothing compared to our decked out cyber body. I'm pretty sure he won't be a threat. Pressing forward, we end up finding one of the rooms that the children are trapped in, and as we were about to jump into action, the scientist from the earlier conversation with Sundowner and the Senator comes in the room, with none other than George held at gunpoint, and threatens to kill George if Raiden tries to break the glass and free the children who are trapped inside the room that is now being filled with poison gas. Raiden either surrenders or has to choose between saving the children or George. George proclaims to just focus on the children as he deems saving them more important, saying he's glad if he can take that scientist down with him. Raiden takes that as a sign and goes in to slash the scientist, but unfortunately just ends up with George losing an arm, which I didn't even know until the end of the game where I saw George with the prosthetic. Initially I thought George was fine and Raiden was able to kill the dude without harming George, but I guess I was wrong. The chapter then ends and we unlock the best suit in the game. Yes, finally, if I equipped it, that is. Yeah, I remember being quick to buy it and I thought I did equip it, but apparently not. It was only purchased, so I was confused why going into the next chapter wasn't there, so we gotta go a whole nother chapter without the suit, sadly. The chapter opens with Raiden driving down the highway when he gets his call from George with his new cyborg arm. So rad. Raiden isn't attacked by the police because he's not supposed to be here. Turns out Raiden has gone rogue because he doesn't like the way the government is treating the case with the kids' brains. Decides to set out on his own to make things right. Some enemies slice through later and this guy found in a box, and we make our way through multiple buildings tearing all who cross our path, and one elevator shaft right later at the Underground Railroad where it is pitch black and you have to use your stealth visor to be able to see and maneuver your way around. After dealing with the enemies down there, Wolfden informs us that we must head back to the surface and continue. Where we encounter Jetstream Sam, televised on the screens of an alley. He taunts Raiden about I don't know why I say Raiden sometimes. He talks Raiden about how nobody cares what they're doing with all the helpless kids. He then explains that the cyborgs Raiden kills aren't the evil people he made them out to be. He tells Raiden to listen to the battlefield emotion sensors or whatever, and Raiden hears the cries of desperate men who just wanted to help their family, overwhelming him with guilt. Sam actually changes Raiden's perspective quite a bit in his speech, which is really cool and really solidifies he and Raiden's rivalry. It's true what they say, words hurt so much. It got Raiden walking all slow. Got me holding the dang W King down all the way. We depressingly walk over 90 meters to the next area, which is also the next boss fight. We meet the meme man himself, Monsoon. He is big into memes. No, not the ones you're thinking of, but memes as in the selfish gene, coined by Richard Dawkins in the book titled The Selfish Gene. I'll let Monsoon explain it.
Memes, the DNA of the soul. The shitposts. They are the culture. They are everything we pass on. Expose someone to anger long enough, they learn to hate. They become a carrier. Envy, greed, despair, wounds, all that. How about shit? Is that a meme?
The meme speech combined with Sam's speech earlier has Raiden question his philosophy and why he does what he does. He admits it's because he likes to kill. He enjoys it, and with that, he brings back his old persona, Jack the Ripper. He has the doctor turn off his pain inhibitors as he pulls the blade from his stomach and butchers all the nameless cyborgs, and turns his blade towards Sam and Monsoon. Yeah. Sam offers to pitch in, but Monsoon says he'll take care of Raiden on his own. Big mistake. Like, I don't know why they didn't just jump him, but okay. But starts the most infamous boss fight, for me at least. So, you know that parry skill? Maybe use it every now and again, but don't think it's really important. Well, that's what you're going to be doing like 80% of the time in this fight. Like, my fingers legit started to hurt because of this. Because to parry on PC, you have to hold either A, W, S, and D, and press left click in the direction of the attack, and my middle finger was cramping. As I said, you do a lot of parrying, and the structure of this fight is basically parry Monsoon when he's coming out to smoke, parry Monsoon when he detaches part of his body at you. Oh yeah, you can do that by the way. And then slice some stuff he throws at you. If you haven't learned the importance of parrying already, this fight will make you see it. You really have to be patient, as most of the fight is parrying Monsoon's attacks until he's weak enough to just start hitting on him yourself. Like legit, there are times you just gotta stand there and wait for him to attack first because you just can't hit him. Like you literally can't. You just can't hit him. The main goal is, after Monsoon has thrown all his body parts at you and you parry them all, you're able to get in and use blade mode to cut a specific area and cause them to fall apart and have to rebuild, giving you the opportunity to deal damage. As stressful as it was though, it was actually really fun and rewarding once you get his attack patterns down. You can almost never be hit because you can parry everything. Also, this is the fight I learned that you can use healing items from your inventory. Every previous fight and other combat encounters I did all in one take because I didn't know there was other ways to heal other than the blue spine stuff you rip out of enemies. So Monsoon took me multiple times because I was doing everything with the health I had and no refills. It wasn't until I finally learned this going through my items that I was able to beat him. The next chapter starts with Raiden entering the facility that holds the brains, us now having Monsoon's weapon, but more importantly, I finally equipped the best suit in the game. We also now have access to Ripper mode after the Monsoon fight, which is a mode you can activate with full FC. It allows you to deal bonus damage. I also tried fighting with Monsoon's weapon, but this doesn't feel right, and I switched back to Mistrals. I just got used to how it feels, and it's my favorite weapon you get from the bosses, and I can tell each weapon is meant for a different playstyle. Especially when I get Sundowner's weapon. That thing was heavy as heck, and I was not using that. To make it farther up the building, I have to do another stealth section. When I'm then told I don't have to fight every enemy I encounter, and from there you can call me Joseph's Joestar because I was booking it. We didn't make our way through a nice little garden area before making our way to the elevator for a pretty sick combat encounter, with you fighting enemies on the elevator while also switching between elevators to escape said enemies. It's really cool. After getting through the elevator part, we are so close to the lab, we can taste it. In fact, hey look, it's right behind those doors. Ayo, Mistral! Yeah, turns out they have AI bodies of Mistral and Monsoon, and you have to fight those guys again in these mini boss fights, which is so great. Hey, at least I get to hear Mistral's theme again. Dun, 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 dun. Monsoon straight up comes out of thin air though with his fight. Like, it legit caught me off guard. Like, the smoke just immediately starts and he just comes through it. Anyway, not gonna lie, I kinda cooked during these fights. The parries were on point, and I could feel just how far I've come in this game in terms of my skill. It felt good. We make it to the server room where we encounter Sundowner. One yap says about war later, and we meet Sundowner on the helipad of the building. And you know how I was stating earlier how I felt I was getting better and better at the game and was feeling confident? Well, this the game, bro. Just as I felt as I understood all that needed to be understand, I get slapped in the face with reality. This fight really slapped my butt, only because I legit didn't know how to do the action that was needed to beat it. See, with Sundowner's fight, he'll have moments where he'll charge at you with his shield. His shields though are explosive, and hitting them will damage you, so you must parry his charge. And that will put you into blade mode, where you must line up your slice with the 3 red squares on screen. Thing is, these squares line up in different angles, and you must adjust your line to slice them all right. What you're supposed to do is use the W, A, S, and D keys to move around and better line up your cut, and not just use your mouse, which I thought was the only way you could use blade mode. Fight took me forever because of just that reason. There were slice prompts that I just couldn't line up in time because I didn't know how to use it. Agonizing. Doesn't help there's a stupid helicopter in the back always shooting at you, doubling the amount of stress I was already feeling. So overall, the goal is to slice the red squares when parrying. Then when those are destroyed, it should trigger another opportunity that has Sundowner expose a part of his body. You then must slice to cut off some of his shield, something for the longest time I could not accomplish. Finally, when I had gone to look up a guide, I finally realized you could have more control over blade mode than I thought. It kinda clicked because beforehand, when dealing with normal enemy cyborgs and trying to cut them open to get their fluids, I would struggle at a more difficult angle. Same thing when trying to get left hands from cyborgs or the doctor. Once you finally have taken down all his shield, the fight becomes much easier. When you get Sundowner to low health, about 11% in my case, triggers a really cool scene where he escapes on a helicopter and you take off on one of the vulture looking ass cyborgs and you go flying up the top of the building, avoiding debris. You then cut through the ceiling, which felt pretty cool for my newfound power of blade mode, and finally finish Sundowner by blowing up his ride and having him launch straight into our grasp. It felt so satisfying cutting him up with the technique his fight taught me. Although this fight was a fist up my rectum, just like all the other fights, I'm still grateful for what it taught me. It improved my use with blade mode, which will come in handy with future encounters. Gotta keep reminding myself this game ain't no walk in the park. After Sundowner is defeated, it's time to make our way to where Armstrong plans to launch his devious plans that in-universe quote rivals 9/11. So yeah, we gotta get moving. Chapter 4 end. Chapter 5 opens with Raiden and the doctor flying to Armstrong's location in a helicopter when they are surprised attacked by cyborgs, an attack in which Raiden ends up slicing a flying ship in half. During the whole debacle though, Doctor and Raiden sadly get separated when Raiden falls to the ground after a failed attempt to get back on board with the doctor. After fighting some enemies on the ground, we come across some dude's bike and borrow it to make our way to a launch site to meet up with some allies to get the transportation needed to get to the airbase on time. And that marks the end of chapter 5, which was pretty short, mostly because the chapter was just that opening I mentioned earlier with Raiden and the doctor, then a bunch of ground fighting that I didn't include because it wasn't very relevant. You do all that fighting until you find the bike you need to get out of there, and before you know it, we're on the road, baby. I don't know why I said that. Also, something small I want to point out, I just find it funny how stiff Raiden looks riding the motorcycle in the opening shot. Like, I don't know why, it just makes me giggle. Like, look at him. We didn't get interrupted by something on the road that seems to be Wolf. Wait, it's not Wolf, it's Wolf and Jetstream Sam. Dun dun dun. It seems Sam has been waiting here with Wolf for Raiden to appear for the final showdown. Even Raiden is a little lost, but he doesn't care because it's time for Sam to die. Sam seems a little too excited about it though.
Oh, good. Why, that's very good. Yes, I like that.
The fuck?
So, the ultimate showdown begins. The one that's been hyped up the whole game. Wolf has front row seats, as he kinda just has to stand there because this is between the two of them. When the fight started, I tested the waters to see how similar it is to our first encounter with him. And just as I thought, Sam once again doesn't attack until you do. He'll just be there waiting for your first move. You can even walk up to him and goof off. You're safe until you press that attack button. Sam's fight isn't too bad as long as you're good at parrying, such as moi. His fight has two separate modes, if that makes sense. When fighting him, you have the power to knock his sword out of his hand, and that triggers the second mode where you fight him while he uses his hands, which funny enough was the mode I struggled with the most. I was confused on how to hit him right in this state. Anyway, eventually a QTE pops up where you gotta spam left click while Sam tries and stops your blade, after which he picks back up his sword, and the fight switches back to that mode of fight, which I must prefer because it's easier for me. I'm not gonna lie, this was probably the easiest boss fight for me next to Mistral and Blade Wolf. Cause like, with those fights, I didn't even die once, which was kinda disappointing, cause just like with this fight, I didn't even die once. This was like the big hype rival battle I've been waiting for, but it also makes sense. Up until this point, I've been honed for this battle. All the other bosses teaching me stuff building up to the player I've become at that moment. I knew what to do and the best courses of action to take. Monsoon had my parrying skills on point, Sundowner helped me better use blade mode so I could knock Sam's sword out of his hand. It all came together, cause to think if I did this fight when I first started, I would have sucked big black
nigga balls.
So even though the fight was kind of less memorable for me, it has a place in my heart for how proud I made myself. Anyway, once you get Sam to 9% health, it triggers the QTE, where you slice Sam's wrist and stab him in the chest. And with that, Sam falls. His life ended. Raiden points out how he had little cyborg enhancements, which means Sam was basically pure skill. Kinda embarrassing for Raiden. Like, he was going all out to a dude that was barely half of his class. Raiden picks up Sam's blade and finds out it was a family heirloom, and Sam got the blade from his father. We keep the blade and give it to Wolf since Sam was basically his previous owner. Then we get this really metal / corny scene where Raiden sheaths the blade like, oh man. I love this game. Look at that. We are then informed we have less than an hour to get to the airbase, and Raiden and Wolf didn't book it to the launch site, which doesn't make sense to me because doesn't Raiden still have the bike? It wasn't destroyed, he just parked it and went to fight Sam, and I'm pretty sure it wasn't out of gas, but whatever. Chapter 6 end. Chapter 7 opens up with a guard eating pizza reading an anime girl magazine, which hey, do what you gotta do to pass the time, man. He's then interrupted by a wolf and does this funny photo comparison to see if it's Raiden. The actual Raiden then pulls up and they meet with the contact here at the site, which is, at first I couldn't tell if it was a tiny woman because you know Japan, or a little girl, and I'm now sure it's just a girl because the flirt interaction her and George have at the end of the game. That would be weird if, you know, she was older. Also, I just checked the wiki and it said she was 11. Also, one more thing I want to point out here, like during the scene, because it was really funny to me. Okay, so Sunny, you know, being a kid, she sees Wolf and thinks that he's like really cute, which he is kind of, come on. So she asks him to shake, which he does, you know, shakes her hand. And then Raiden tries the same thing and puts his hand out to where Wolf leaves him hanging. What does it for me though is you can see Raiden for like a second activate Ripper mode because of it, which is hilarious. Like he was so devastated from being left hanging from Wolf. His Jack side came out. That's so funny to me. Like you can literally see it for like, oh, it's just so funny. Anyway, Sunny then gets Raiden and Wolf set up into the jet and they set off to the final showdown. They arrive at the Shabazabad air base in Pakistan and Wolf scouts ahead. The place is filled with a bunch of enemies, of course, and we slash our way through them to get close to wherever Armstrong is. After getting past what felt like hundreds of enemies, we find Wolf! No! What happened? I'll kill him. I'll kill him. I'll kill him all. But before I can kill them all, a giant robot emerges from the ground. It reveals to be holding the man himself, Senator Armstrong. How can they even hear each other right now? I mean, Raiden probably has super cyborg ears, but how about Armstrong? Do nanomachines help with hearing? It is then revealed that what happened in Pakistan was leaked on Twitter and now Pakistanians are getting cancelled. Not really, but story leaked, you know. This is what Armstrong wanted all along, as America has the excuse they needed to start a war. Why? For money and stuff. You can watch the full speech somewhere on YouTube. But now it's time for Raiden, to perish. So Armstrong hops into his mech, and now it's boss battle time. The medal, the GXSSS, is a fight that very much confused me, and here's why. So there are points during the boss fight, notably at the beginning, where the thing will slam its giant blade arms against / towards you, and you must parry them, which I already knew to do because, well, what else would I have done? Just stand there and let it hit me? Anyway, even though you could parry the attack, you still take some small damage, most likely because of how big the mech is, and that's what threw me off because eventually I'll just slowly lose health and die, right? You can still damage the GEX in between attacks, but the damage over time was greater to me than I was to it. It then starts to stomp on you, which caused me even more frustration because I was just wondering when I get the chance to heal myself. Once again, I looked up a guide to make sure what I was doing was right, which led me to a video by SS Sniper Wolf. It was one of her much older videos, of course, before she fell from grace. It's just crazy to see she was uploading regular old video game boss fight videos with no commentary to what she is now. Anyway, through that in the IGN article, I learned that after the stomping section of the fight, you can go on to chop one of its legs off, where it will then deploy 2 regular sized enemy robots. The mech will then shoot off a laser blast, which you gotta avoid and let hit the 2 robots, where you can then go and extract the spinal juices thing from them with blade mode to heal. Rinse and repeat all previous parts of the fight until you chop off a second leg. You then grab the thing by its blade arm and start to flip the whole thing over. The scene mirrors the first boss fight with the first big robot mech. It's so cool. You then rip off its blade arm and use it as a sword. You first parry 2 attacks and then enter blade mode to slice it to pieces. This game is so cool. Like, I was so hyped playing that scene, you guys have no idea. But once defeated, Armstrong walks out of his now decimated machine. But you'd be wrong in thinking this meant it's all over. What could a normal Senator possibly do to being so super cyborg, you think? This is Armstrong's ultimate form, and the most meme powering form, and no, not Monsoon's memes, just straight up meme potential. Like, this game is so goofy, it's ridiculous, especially at this part of the game, which is literally the end. But at the same time, this game is so cool. We didn't get put into a scripted fight against Armstrong, which we lose because, come on, look at what the guy has been doing to us this whole time. Raiden's sword is then broken, rest in peace. He then takes a gnarly but also very funny punch to a full roadbird slide on the steel ground. Ouch. Raiden is now forced to use his hands to fight, which puts him at even more of a disadvantage. At least that's what I thought. He actually holds his own really well for like 2 seconds. While getting his butt handed to him, Armstrong reveals his real reason for wanting war, so he can get re-elected to make the America he truly wants. He's using war to get elected so you can end the war as a business. I used the stones to destroy the stones type of thing. Raiden actually agrees with this and admits he was wrong about Armstrong. He isn't greedy. He's batshit insane. And then he says the line, He says the line. We didn't get another scripted fight where, oh my god, it's happening. The scene is happening. What I've been waiting for all game. It's... Wait, the music isn't playing. Where's it has to be this way? I thought it played. I thought it played here. No. Yeah, it turns out the infamous Standing Here I Realize scene doesn't even have the OST playing in the background. That song doesn't kick into the actual final fight. The song was just added to that scene because it's still tied to Armstrong. So yeah, not gonna lie, I was kind of crushed at first because if the song's not here, where in the game is it? So the scene was kind of lackluster because I had such big expectations for it. It was still really funny though. Still really funny scene. It's okay, because right after we get yet another meme line. And to be real quick, this whole interaction with them is a meme really. This is where a lot of the meme lines and scenes come from in this game. Although of course there's many more outside of this. But anyway, nanomachines, son. They harden in response to physical trauma. You can't hurt me, Jack. And just when it seems it's all over for little old Jackie boy, Wolf comes in with Sam's blade. It plays a recording left by Sam before he and Raiden fought when he was on the road with Wolfie. It reveals that Sam had set his blade to unlock in a few hours if he were to fall, which he did. And it's up to Wolfie to do whatever he sees fit with it. Wolfie then drops this bomb speech, which I'll let you hear for yourself.
I was not designed to fear termination. However, Directive 01 is to ensure all data acquired is preserved and passed along. To expire here would violate that directive.
That's a good boy.
However, Raiden came to my aid. I have learned from him. When Samuel fell, data analysis was inconclusive. But that has changed. I have established new parameters now, created my own directives.
I guess you could say he's his own master now. Get it? A reference to the song. Anyway, he then throws Raiden the blade, and Armstrong then commits animal abuse. Wolfie, no! Raiden, kill him! Kill him! Raiden unsheaths the sword, and he does his own little speech before proclaiming, "Let's dance." And the time has come. The OST has kicked in. The hype is real. It is time to dance! Which was my mood to begin with, but this fight drained everything from me. I can say with full confidence, this was the hardest boss fight for me in the whole game, which it makes sense because it is the final boss. But I'm being so real when I say this fight caused me IRL pain. During this specific recording session I was doing to get footage for the game, I had been recording for 6 hours up to this point. It was like 4 something in the morning, 4 a.m. when I was doing this fight. And it took me over an hour to finish. Specifically, it took me 21 tries, and some of those weren't even deaths. It was just me restarting at a certain point in the fight because I gave up and I knew I needed to start at square one again. I went through over an hour's worth of footage to get that number. Now, you're probably wondering why that number is so big, which segues into the part where I explain all my Johns. Now, Armstrong is a female dog to fight. He does a lot of explosion attacks along with charge attacks that I'm able to parry just fine, but I would still get hit by an attack of his every now and then, which wasn't good because I needed all the health I could get. Now, here's the kicker. The move that caused me the most pain in the first couple tries. When he jumps up and throws those giant things at you, I don't know, but those giant like debris things he picks up, I think they're tanks, but he just throws them at you. You have to enter blade mode and chop them up, but the thing is, they aren't like moonstones where you just have to slice whatever stuff he threw at you. With all the multiple stuff he threw at you, we just had to go into blade mode and slice. No, it's not like that. This combines Sundowner's shield mechanic where you must line up with multiple red squares in order to slice the item. The thing is, it's 4 squares instead of 3 now, which I gotta be honest was a little too much for me. I struggled a lot with this and I would be lucky to get even past 1. The thing is, they do so much damage. Like I'm talking, kills you at 97% kind of damage if you get hit. I can never get past this part when it came up. It made me hate Armstrong even more than Raiden. Of course, as usual, I went to an IGN guide and they revealed a cheeky little way to deal with the problem that had been torturing me. See, when it gets to the part where he throws them at you, instead of going into blade mode like one would, you can just skedaddle. You can run forward under the debris and avoid everything entirely. This information was a godsend to me. You guys have no clue. With that, the fight became more bearable, but I wasn't out of the woods yet. Let me explain how this whole fight goes finally. Like I stated earlier, Armstrong's main attacks are causing big explosions, some that make their way towards you or take up a big chunk of the area, which in both cases you must avoid. He'll also charge after you either with force or as a grapple, which you must either parry or avoid. There is also a special charge that when parried causes a QTE where your sword is knocked away, but in turn can allow big damage. as long as you get all the button prompts right. You must quickly go pick back up your sword when the QTE is over. I found out a fast way of doing that is just holding down the S key when the QTE is done, and you'll go right in its direction. He also has instances where he'll heal using the spare nanomachines from the debris. When he does this, you must go behind him and go into blade mode and slice the wood square that appears on his back, which then leaves him in a collapsed state where you're free to do as much damage as you can before he gets back up. This is another thing I learned from the IGN tutorial because I had no idea how to do it beforehand, and because of that I died a lot, of course. Another thing I want to mention on why I struggled with this fight is because I had no more heals left. I had used them all before this fight, a mistake I will cry over until I'm on my deathbed. I had no choice but to do this fight with the health bar I had, which is why even getting hit once was so dangerous, and I kept getting hit. And I hate to admit it, but even though my parry game was still high tier, there was a lot of moments where I'd get hit either because I was caught off guard or I just couldn't parry the attack at all. Which is why when I finally beat him on the 21st try, after over an hour of sitting in my chair at 4 to 5 a.m. in the dark, I beat Armstrong at 10% while I was at 10% health. My butt cheeks were clenched so hard they could break a rock. You finish this fight in a QTE where you slice both of his arms in blade mode, then gutting him. We then spam left click as we tussle arms before taking out back eye or blade before delivering the final blade mode slice on his chest that allows Raiden to rip out his heart, and with a mighty press of the F button, we do just that. It is finally done. Let the cutscenes take it from here.
Well done, Jack. Your dream dies with you. Oh, maybe not. You've guaranteed the status quo will go on. For a while longer, at least. War will continue as an institution. As an industry. Men will fight for reasons they don't understand. Causes they don't believe in. But at least I'll leave a worthy successor. You, Jack. You carve your own path. Use whatever methods you see fit. You don't let legal bullshit get in the way. And if it costs a few lives, so be it. Deep inside, we're kindred spirits. You and I.
Chapter 7 in. The epilogue opens with a news report stating that even though the president is safe and there is no war spark, there's still tension between the US and Pakistan. But with bad news comes the good, and the doctor reports in saying that the corporation they've been working on for the cyborg children has been approved. The children now have a place to work / live and receive proper education. Some other news also shows that they have a new recruit. I wonder who that could be. George! Rocking a new cyborg arm and carrying in some stuff for Sunny. He then raises up Sunny, which causes her to get clumsy from being flustered, and feels that Wolfie is okay, thank the heavens. While cleaning, they have a little chat about Raiden and all he had to do, how some might just always see him as Jack the Ripper, but Sunny will always see him as a hero. Roll credits. And that's Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. I had a lot of fun with this game. It challenged me, some ways good, some ways that made me want to burn down an orphanage. It made me laugh, it made me cry, tears of agony, but overall I really enjoyed it and would recommend it to anyone looking for a good action game to play. It's short and doesn't cost very much, only being $30, but I got it for $14 thanks to a sale. Remember, sales are your best friend when it comes to video games. I came to this game for the memes and left with, well, even more memes. No joke, like, I'm part of the Metal Gear Rising meme community now. now. I've seen so many on YouTube since finishing this game. Funnily enough, what Moonsun talks about happened to me. I see all the memes with the game and it being talked about, and it made me go get the game myself. Memes were spread using memes. Oh my god. Anyhow, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I worked hard on it, and this is my first time doing a video essay like this, so I hope I did at least decent. You know, took me a long time, you know, getting the footage, writing the script, and now after this I gotta go edit it. But yeah, I don't want to yap here at the end. But with that, this was Metal Gear Rising with EZ45, and I hope you guys have a good one, and peace. Okay, so I lied. I know I was like, I don't want to be in the yap chest, but basically I just got done like editing and everything, and I just want to acknowledge that thanks to you guys, my first video on the channel has reached 1K views, or a little over 1K views. It's my Skibidi toilet video, the second part. What a video to hit 1K, you know, especially the first one. But I just really wanted to thank you guys, like all the support. Like it really means a lot. Like seeing that hit 1K was absolutely mind-blowing. And just thank you guys so much for all the support on everything. I just really appreciate it. New videos on the way, of course. I just been dealing with a lot with relationships and, you know, school and all that, and just life stuff. I have a lot going on, but I really want to focus like on this. But just thank you guys for everything, for getting that video to 1K. Like, I appreciate it so much. Thank you, and have a good one. Bye.